Welcome back to Vuln Vibes. In this episode, we are going to talk about the Discord data breach. Now, for our audience, you know who you are, security veterans, threat hunters. We're skipping the surface level stuff. We're aiming for a proper technical deep dive here. Our focus today, really digging into the recent Discord incident. We want to look hard at the supply chain failure, the whole outsourcing angle with sensitive PII, and crucially, the alleged threat actor TTPs.
Right, the tactics, techniques, and procedures. Because when you've got a platform like Discord, what is it, over 200 million monthly active users?
Use scale.
The stakes are just inherently high. And this specific incident hitting age verification data, we're talking government IDs basically, it's almost a case study in third-party risk.
And the context is vital, as you said. This wasn't Discord's core production systems getting popped.
No, absolutely not. It was confirmed to be confined to a third-party customer service provider.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because the thing that really jumped out, I think, to the security community was this massive gulf, this discrepancy between the official numbers from Discord and what the threat actors were shouting about.
Exactly. Discord confirmed around, 70,000 users affected?
Roughly.
But the actors, they were throwing around numbers like 5.5 million users, terabytes of data.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
That friction point, between the forensic reality and these often extortion-driven claims,
Yeah.
that's kind of the modern incident response landscape, isn't it?
It absolutely is. You're not just fighting the breach anymore. You're fighting the info ops campaign that comes with it. It forces you to look much deeper at the how. How was the breach done? How was the data actually moved?
Right. So let's start there at the point of failure.
Yeah.
Segment 1, the perimeter breach itself. Again, just to be crystal clear for everyone listening, this wasn't some zero-day against Discord's main servers.
No. Classic supply chain attack. It came through an external vendor doing customer support. Sources point pretty strongly towards their Zendesk instance being involved.
Which is a well-known platform, but still.
Still a third party. And the attack vector itself wasn't, super sophisticated malware, apparently. Initial access came from compromising just one account.
One account.
Belonging to a support agent. And this agent worked for an outsourced business partner that Discord was using. So simple account compromise was the foothold.
Wow. Okay, that right there flags a huge potential issue, doesn't it? You've got sensitive PII, these government ID photos for age verification appeals.
Highly sensitive data.
Being handled, potentially stored, within a customer service ticketing system run by a third party. Even a reputable one like Zendesk. That feels like a significant risk acceptance.
I agree. The data sensitivity really has to drive the controls, no matter where it sits, organizationally or geographically. The second you push identity docs outside your direct control, you effectively inherit that vendor's security posture, their potential security debt.
And the timeline Discord gave.
Yeah.
Access started around September 20th, 2025.
That's right. And the actor had access for about 58 hours.
58 hours. Inside the vendor's environment, presumably with that agent's credentials, maybe more. That's a long time for recon and exfil.
It's a significant window. Discord did confirm the actual PII exposure was limited, around 70,000 users globally, specifically those who'd submitted IDs for age appeals.
And their response seemed pretty standard. Secure the systems, cut ties with a compromised vendor, notify the affected users by early October.
Textbook IR, from a public perspective, yes. But the lesson for you listening, for the architects and security leads, your data is only as safe as the weakest link in that whole vendor chain, especially when you hand over keys to the kingdom, like government ID data.
It wasn't a core auth failure, it was an access control failure at the edge of trust.
Precisely.
Okay, segment 2. This is where, like you said, it gets really interesting. The alleged TTPs. We have to dissect what the attackers claim they did, because even if the data volume was inflated for extortion...
The methodology tells a story.
Exactly. It gives us insight into how attackers might move laterally inside these outsourced environments.
Right. So the attackers didn't just sit on that compromised agent account. Their claim was they exploited an internal support application within Zendesk. They called it Zenbar.
Zenbar. Okay, that's a specific, potentially proprietary tool name. That's interesting.
It is. It suggests they didn't just use standard APIs. They potentially found a vulnerability or misused a feature in an internal tool. These internal apps often don't get the same level of hardening or scrutiny as public-facing ones.
Makes sense. Less logged, maybe less monitored.
Yeah.
So if their claim about Zenbar is true, what did they allege they could do with it?
This is the critical part. They claimed this exploit let them do high-privilege actions, the big one. Disabling multi-factor authentication, MFA.
Whoa. Disabling MFA.
That's the claim. either on specific accounts or maybe certain API functions. And once MFA was potentially bypassed, they said they could retrieve huge amounts of user data, phone numbers, emails, internal ticket info using API queries.
If they could disable MFA via an internal tool, that's game over for that vendor's trust model right there.
Instantly. And the exfil method, they described mass API queries that points towards automated scripting, not some guy manually copying data, but a script designed to just vacuum up everything it could reach fast.
Which brings us back to that crazy scope discrepancy.
Right.
They claimed 1.5, maybe 1.6 terabytes of data, age verification photos, and associated data.
Yeah, 1.5 TV.
Plus, impacting 5.5 million users. Let's just talk feasibility for a second. Moving 1.5 terabytes, probably encrypted, out of a vendor network through whatever egress points they had inside 58 hours.
That needs serious bandwidth, for one. But more importantly, how does 1.5 terabytes leave without tripping every single data loss prevention and egress monitoring alert the vendor should have had?
It seems highly improbable, especially originating from what was initially just a single, likely low-privilege support agent account.
Very improbable. Which raises that key question for incident responders, for you listening. When the attackers claimed numbers are just orders of magnitude larger than your own forensics show 70K versus 5.5 million, how do you manage that?
Yeah, how do you counter that narrative? You're fighting FUD fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You need solid forensic proof, but you also have to handle the pressure, maybe even internal pressure, suggesting paying the ransom might be easier.
And Discord's public stance here was quite firm, wasn't it?
It was. They came out strongly, labeled the big numbers as inaccurate, and explicitly called it an extortion attempt. They stated very clearly they wouldn't pay.
Which is important. Refusing to pay extortionists, while it carries risks of data dumps, it sets a boundary. It says, we manage security through controls, not by funding criminals.
Yeah, they didn't just try to contain the technical breach, they actively pushed back against the attacker's credibility in public. That's a key part of handling these things now.
Definitely.
All right, segment 3. Let's pivot to the confirmed damage. Focusing just on what Discord verified was exposed from that customer service system. What PII are we actually talking about?
Okay, the verified list is still pretty bad. We're looking at real names, usernames, email addresses, other contact details, IP addresses.
Standard stuff, unfortunately common in breaches. But then
the really critical stuff. Photos of government-issued IDs, driver's licenses, passports. That's the high-severity payload here. And they also confirmed partial payment info exposure.
just the last 4 digits of credit cards, right?
Correct. Last 4 digits only.
Okay, so not enough for direct card fraud on its own. But combined with names, emails, maybe usernames, and especially those ID photos.
It becomes a powerful toolkit for identity theft. It aids correlation, makes social engineering way easier, could help bypass verification questions on other sites.
It's fuel for synthetic identity creation.
Yeah.
But let's also highlight the security wins. What wasn't compromised? This is important for risk assessment.
Absolutely vital. No full credit card numbers were exposed, no passwords, and crucially, no core authentication data for the main Discord platform itself.
That's the key distinction. It means the immediate risk of someone taking over your actual Discord account because of this breach is probably low, assuming, good password hygiene, no reuse.
Standard caveats apply, always. But yes, the core platform auth seems secure. However, that exposure of government IDs, that demands serious, immediate mitigation from affected users.
What should those 70,000 or so people be doing right now?
Number 1, without question, enable multi-factor authentication everywhere, not just on Discord, but critically on the email account associated with their Discord account.
Because email is the skeleton key for password resets.
Always. If they get your email, they can often get everything else. So MFA on email is non-negotiable. Second, extreme vigilance against phishing.
Oh, yeah. With real names, emails, maybe even referencing the ID they submitted. Attackers can craft incredibly convincing spear phishing messages now.
Exactly. Messages that look legitimate, maybe reference an account issue or that ID submission.
Yeah.
Users need to be hyper-skeptical of any unsolicited contact. And remember, Discord official comms only come from norreply@discord.com.
Good reminder. Anything else?
Yes, for anyone whose government ID was compromised, long-term monitoring is essential. Credit reports, bank accounts, watch for any signs of identity theft. This isn't something that fades in a week.
ID theft can surface months, even years later.
Precisely. It requires sustained vigilance. This isn't a quick fix. It's basically a mandate for long-term identity monitoring.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big picture takeaway here?
I mean, the bottom line is this incident is another painful reminder about third-party risk, especially when you outsource the handling of incredibly sensitive data like government IDs.
When you push that data outside your core security controls, even to a trusted vendor.
You're vulnerable to their potential failures. In this case, it looks like a failure in applying zero trust principles to internal vendor accounts that had access to external sensitive data. The technical vulnerability wasn't really Discord's main platform. It was arguably the vendor's internal access control.
So for you listening, the security pros, the architects, maybe the focus shouldn't just be on the initial breach, but on detection and response within those third-party environments.
Exactly. Think about the alleged TTPs again. Exploiting an internal app, this Zenbar, allegedly bypassing MFA, doing high-volume API queries for data exfil, claiming 1.5 terabytes. Traditional perimeter defenses at the vendor clearly didn't catch or stop that effectively if the claims have any truth to the method.
So the provocative thought to leave you with is, what specific logging, monitoring, maybe even behavioral analytics should we now mandate from our third-party vendors, not just at their network edge, but inside their operations?
How do you detect unusual behavior on their internal tools when they're processing your data? How do you catch massive, anomalous data egress that looks like internal traffic until it hits the exit?
Are we talking mandated UEBA, user and entity behavior analytics for vendor staff handling sensitive client data, strict monitoring of internal API usage patterns?
That's the kind of deeper measure this incident suggests might be necessary. Moving beyond just perimeter security questionnaires for vendors, towards verifying their internal detection and response capabilities. Something for you to mull over, definitely, as you look at your own vendor contracts and risk management.
Food for thought indeed. We'll see you on the next deep dive.